Hey, are you guys ready to elevate your DIY skills? Well, of course you are. That's why you're here. I'm so excited to announce the HouseCalls Premium Ad-Free Membership. What is that? Well, you get a bunch of great stuff. You get exclusive member-only content. You can join me for live streams. We've got exclusive contests, sweepstakes, of course, easy-to-follow videos as well. Now, we've got a free 7-day trial. Just go to members.housecallsdiy.com.
We make things. We use our hands, minds, and machines to build, to fix, to improve. We're known as do-it-yourselfers, home improvement fans, fix-it fanatics, inventors. At our core, though, we're all makers. So let's jump in and make something. Hi, I'm Ron Hazelton. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to turn an ordinary wall into handsome twin closets. It's a great way to get added closet space that looks as though it's always been part of the room. Then I'll show you how to make a simple storage and organizing system for dowels, rods, and pipes. Next, a few important tips and techniques for adding insulation to your attic or crawl space. And finally, a demonstration on the best way to cut ceramic tile. You know, storage is one of those things we never seem to have enough of. That was certainly the case for my pals Jack and Carol Hoag. They had simply run out of closet space and were desperate for more. So I loaded up my van and headed north along the seacoast to the Boston suburb of Wayland, Massachusetts, where I met up with my old friends. There are few things I enjoy more than finding a country road in New England and driving. And when old friends are on the other end of that road, well, that's about as good as it gets. Today's journey brings me just west of Boston to the town of Wayland, Massachusetts, and the home of Jack and Carol Hoag and their son Brooke. Now, years ago, I worked for Jack as a marketing executive before I traded suits and ties for khakis and denims. Hey, guys!
Ron!
How are you? Hey, say hello.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Hi.
Today, I'm going to help my old friends create some storage space in their guest room by constructing a couple of closets that should be as attractive as they are practical.
So, Carol, this is where you want to put the closets. And tell me what you were thinking about.
Well, first I thought I needed something all the way across. We need so much storage. But then there was no place to put the bureau. So, Ron, what do you think about doing a closet on each side of the bureau?
This bureau.
Yeah. That needs a facelift, too.
We could do that, or we could build you 3 closets and make the center one with a bunch of drawers in it.
But then I won't have the depth going, you know, looking through. I don't want the room
Back
to be...
to this wall.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
okay.
that makes sense to me.
So, Carol, here's what I'm thinking. 2 matched closets with raised panel doors.
Great.
And we'll leave enough space in the center here for that chest of drawers that you've already got.
Yep.
Trim these off on the top with some cove molding or cornice molding up there.
Nice, yeah.
And then on the inside, on this closet over here, the left one, adjustable shelves, pretty much top to bottom. And on the right one, 2 hanging rods.
Terrific.
Look all right?
I love it.
Using a compound miter saw, Carol and Brooke team up to cut several 2x4s that we'll use to frame our closets. First, we'll assemble and install a rectangular frame against the ceiling. Then we'll add 4 vertical posts. It's onto this framework that we'll attach our walls and doors. This is a nasty little cut right here, too.
10.
You
10.
got 10. We'll count them afterward.
10. Okay.
Now, hang on a second. Hang on. Put your left hand right here.
Yeah.
Hold that.
Is this my left?
That's your left hand. Oh, we're in trouble. Okay, this is the on-off switch. Just squeeze it once. Now, my friend Jack is a marketing genius who has managed to get through most of his life without ever using a tool. Until today. Jack!
Good, Jack.
I'm so proud of. They're all there.
11.
With our frame sections cut, we move back inside. The frames have to be mounted onto wall studs, so Carol and Brooke use electronic stud finders to locate and mark each one. Now we'll build our framework from the top down, but it's much simpler to assemble the pieces of the top section first and then install it as one piece. Brooke and Carol drill clearance holes through the ends of 2 boards. Then drive screws through them to assemble each side of the frame. Using a 2x4 for temporary support, we attach the frames directly to the wall studs. But Carol's having some slippage problems, in more ways than one.
You know why you're getting a slipping on this?
Am I bringing the
The drill is dropping down a little bit.
So are my glasses, right?
I've got to get you a better pair.
A new pair of glasses and a bit more pressure on the back of the drill solves both slippage problems.
Hey,
I
Jack?
could have showed you that.
Hey, Jack, come here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're really gonna have me do one of the.
Yeah, you can let go, Brooke.
Okay.
It'll stay up there, okay.
Well, after he gets through with it, I'm not sure. I literally have never done this before.
Push. There you go.
I wouldn't have done that last one.
Hey, his first drill. Okay.
We've cut our post sections with a small notch at the bottom, so they'll slip right over the baseboard.
There we go, just about like that. Now, I'll be able to attach this at the top and the bottom with screws, but there is no way to drill into the wall and attach it with screws here in the middle because there's no wall stud here. So for that, we're going to have to use a toggle bolt. I'm going to go through this existing hole right here. Just make a marker hole in the wall. Okay, we'll take this away. I'm going to enlarge that to a 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to pass this bolt through the 2x4 and screw the toggle on the other end. Just a few turns here. That's good. Now I'm going to squeeze the wings of the toggle together, put them through that hole, push the bolt in. Now you can see how those wings have flipped out inside the wall and they're holding the 2x4. Now we just have to tighten it up. The trick here is to kind of pull back on the 2x4 as we tighten this up. That'll keep the wings from spinning inside the wall. You watch, it'll pull the 2x4 right into contact. There it goes. Yep. Okay, good. Now we're going to attach this top and bottom.
Yay!
It is perfect, huh?
I did it.
Not a single slip. We attach a short piece of framing to the floor, install our final vertical piece, and our closet frames are complete.
Okay, Brooke, let's put that in. These are the sides of our closet right here. This is 3/4 inch thick MDF, medium density fiberboard. Carol, can you just hold this in place for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm going to step over here,
Yeah.
Brooke. Yeah, push this up against the back wall. There you go, just like that. Be sure it's entire at the bottom. Okay, and we're going to attach this with a nail gun.
Brooke and Carol use nail guns to attach the MDF directly to the frames. We nail fascia boards across the front of the frames, then give our do-it-yourself guru, Jack, a shot at the other closet.
Now, start from there. Go
You're
ahead.
gonna have him shoot the gun?
Go ahead.
Now I pull the
Pull the
trigger.
trigger.
Jack proves another point. These cordless nail guns are not only easy to use, but are very safe.
So here's your new door, panel door.
Great.
Very nice. Brooke, if you can just kind of hold that. And we're going to hang these using a piano hinge. This is a long strip of continuous hinge here. And I'm going to put it on at an angle like this so we get it in the right position. Now I'm going to start by drilling a little pilot hole using this bit. This is a self-centering drill bit. See, there's a sort of a collar or sleeve that slides back.
The self-centering bit allows me to bore through the exact center of each hinge mounting hole. Carol and Brooke follow behind, driving in screws.
Beautiful.
To install the door, we rested on shims to provide the necessary floor clearance. Once again, we use a self-centering bit and screws to attach the door to the frame. With the exterior of our closets complete, it's time to customize the inside.
So these are stock shelves that I picked up. I've got a vinyl coating on here. But to make them a little bit stiffer and able to take more of a load, I want to put this strip on the front here, which is why I had you put the glue down there.
These wood strips not only strengthen the shelves, but also give them a more substantial, finished look.
Now, while Brooke's been downstairs making up those shelves, I've done a couple of things up here. Added a wooden strip right here to act as a door stop and a couple of magnetic catches. So the stop will keep the door from swinging too far inward, and the catch will keep it closed. Also, over here on the side, I've installed a couple of shelving standards. Now, these have little metal clips like this. Could be placed in any of these slots. Carol wanted some total adjustability on this, and I think she's now got it. Here's Brooke. Hey, how are you, Brooke?
Hi, Ron. How you doing?
Okay, let's try this one, see if it fits. Okay, we'll drop this in first. the outside. Okay, that's looking good.
It's
Why don't you bring the rest of those up?
Okay.
Over here, Carol has been putting up the clothes rod brackets. You got them both up on the top?
I've got the top one ready to go.
So that goes in there.
It goes in there.
Just kind of slips down in there. Okay, good.
Perfect.
That's very nice.
Our next step is to install what I like to call the crowning glory. A few strips of crown molding can add a beautiful accent to an otherwise ordinary wall. Finally, a coat of primer, then paint, and our closets are complete.
I think it's incredible. We worked hard, but look at this payoff. Yeah,
I love it.
This is great.
Brooke?
You know, Ron, these closets look like a huge project, but each step was really very easy.
When you break it down, yeah, it was simple, wasn't it? And you know what I loved about this? We didn't use any drywall, any joint compound, no tape.
No.
This is all just wood and MDF. And oh,
Time
look
to pay the check,
who
right?
finally showed up.
That's a
Congratulations.
great job. I played a major role.
Consultants always come in at the end, you know.
Yes, and get the credit.
Well, it seems we all feel the need for more closet space at one time or another, but rarely think about the possibility of creating a closet. And while our day began with a white dresser sitting against an empty wall, it has ended with a transformation that is every bit as attractive as it is practical.
Quite a collection of dolls, huh? That's because I never know what kind of project I'm going to be involved in next around here. But this has created a bit of a storage issue. So I want to come up with some kind of storage system that will take into account the different lengths and diameters of these dowels and rods and take up as little space as possible. This is standard PVC drain pipe. I've cut it to several different lengths, and I'm using 3 different diameters, 1.5 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. The combination of all these should accommodate just about everything that I've got to store, but before I can use them, I've got to put some bottoms in them.
Using a scrap piece of PVC pipe as a template, I draw the bottoms on a piece of plywood. Then cut them out on a bandsaw using an arrow blade. I could also do this using a handheld jigsaw. Next, I drill 3 holes through the side of each pipe section, about a 1/2 inch or so from the bottom. Then, countersink the holes so the screw heads will be flush with the outer surface. I push the plywood bottoms into the ends of the pipe, tap them flush, then put in the screws to fix them in place. Now I arrange the PVC pipes on a plywood base and trace the outlines. When I remove the pipes, the outlines mark the location of each one. I drill a hole through the center of each circle and countersink each one on the bottom. Then I clamp the base in the vise and attach each section of pipe by driving a screw up through the base and into the bottom.
Well, there it is, room for my entire dowel collection and space to grow. But more importantly, I'll be able to find the dowel I need when I want it. You know, just about any tiling job that you take on is going to require that you cut some tiles. For small tiles, you might try a handheld scoring cutter. Place the cutting wheel on the edge of the tile where you want to start the cut. Push down with your opposite hand and move it across the tile. Once you've done that, grip the tile like this. These 2 ears are going to apply pressure on either side of the cut. Squeeze,
And there you have it. For a larger ceramic tile like these, a benchtop scoring cutter would be a good choice. The principle is the same. There you go, nice clean cut. Now for thicker, larger tiles like this one, or for porcelain tiles, the only way to really cut these well is with a tile saw. This is a circular saw with a pump that flows water over the wheel, keeping it cool as it cuts. It has a sliding platform right here. If you've got much tile to cut, this is the way to do it. If you don't want to buy one of these, you can rent them from $30 to $45 a day. But any way you slice it, there's a way to cut tile that'll fit your budget. Up to 45% of your home's energy can be lost through an inadequately insulated attic. Now, if your attic looks something like this, you may think you're in pretty good shape. But then again, maybe not. According to the Department of Energy, most attics have between 3 inches and 6 inches of insulation. But they recommend up to 12 to keep those heating and air conditioning bills down in most parts of the country. Now, if the insulation in your attic looks like this, that is, the top of the insulation is below the top of the joist, then you'll need to add more insulation in this direction to bring it up flush with the top. If you have to add more insulation, don't use this type with the paper vapor barrier. That can trap moisture between the layers. Instead, use this, insulation wrapped in a breathable, perforated poly sleeve. Once the cavities between the joists are full of insulation, additional layers are applied perpendicular to the joists. Well, you can save money, be more comfortable, and add resale value to your home. How's that for payback? If you're fed up with pictures that hang askew at odd angles, well, here's my technique for hanging pictures level so they'll stay level. Begin by holding the picture where you want it to hang and make a small pencil mark along the top of the frame at the center. Spread your thumb and forefinger until they're 5 inches apart. Then hook them under the hanging cable on the back side of the artwork. Pull up until the cable is taut. Then measure the distance from the cable to the top edge of the frame. Now measure down from the original mark on the wall the same distance, in this case about 2 1/4 inches, and make a second mark. Using a level, extend a line about 3 inches either side of the center. Then measure from the center of the mark 2 1/2 inches to the left and the same distance to the right. Now, for precise hanging, this is important. Be sure to place the bottom of the hanger, not the nail, on the mark and drive it in. Put the second hanger on the other mark and pound it in. Another thing that will put the brakes on any tilting are these small bumpers. One near each corner will help the frame grip the wall. It's this double hanger approach that'll keep your picture from getting out of kilter. The way I see it, I like rock and roll when it comes to music, but when it's my pictures, well, I like them steady and level.
To view today's projects again and countless more, go to HouseCallsDIY.com. Step-by-step home improvement tips when you need them.
I'm Brian Kelsey. Welcome to House Calls.
Join us as we tackle some great home projects, as well as look back at favorites from Ron Hazelton on House Calls.